Hello, good morning. This is B. Shuraya, Assistant Professor of Commerce. Today, let us learn a new topic, that is subsidiary books. Writing entries in the subsidiary books or maintenance of subsidiary books. In any business, many of the transactions are usually repetitive in nature. Broadly, the transactions can be grouped into two categories, that is, cash and non-cash transactions. Cash transactions are those which involve cash inflows and cash outflows. Non-cash transactions are those which do not directly or immediately involve cash flows. Many of the non-cash transactions are credit transactions of purchase and sale of goods. Credit purchases and sales other than goods are few in number and not repetitive, that is, may occur occasionally. The cash receipts and payments may be grouped into one category and credit sale of goods into at another category and recorded in special journals. Thus, in practice, the main journal is subdivided in such a way that a separate journal or book is used for each category or group of transactions which are sufficiently large in number and also repetitive in nature. By and large, in any large scale business, the following special journals are found. Depending on the need, the number of journals may be reduced or increased. See, in these subsidiary books, or you may call them as special journals also, generally there will be 8 types of books that we will learn in later. So, each of the 8 books, special journal and a book of original entry. That is why they are differently called as books of prime entry or subdivisional of journal, or subsidiary books, or special journals, or subsidiary journals, or day books. Transactions of a particular type are entered in the book or journal specially meant for it and then posted to their respective ledger accounts. This system is known as the practical system of accounting, or sometimes as the English system. It must, however, be noted that even though the usual type of debit credit form journal entries are not passed in these special journals, the fundamental double entry principles of accounting are strictly followed. Let us know the advantages of special journals or subsidiary books. As these books are having various advantages, so let us learn them. There are many advantages of having subsidiary books. They are summarized as: 1. Division of work. The division of journal and ledger into separate books facilitates the division of work among a number of persons. This leads to simultaneous and prompt recording of transactions. And also another advantage is these books improves efficiency of recording. The division of work prevents waste of time and stationery. The advantage of specialization, that is, each person attending to one or two books make for efficiency. Another advantage is reference becomes easy. As there is a separate book for each type or group of transactions, reference to any of them is made easy. It also facilitates control. Another advantage is classification of transactions become automatic as there is a separate book for each type or group of transactions. A particular type of transactions or a group of related transactions can be recorded at one place, that is in one book. Next advantage is responsibility can be fixed. Responsibility can be fixed. The responsibility for maintaining a particular book can be fixed, so that if at all any mistakes or errors find out, then the concerned bookkeeper will be fixed for that mistake. Internal checking also another advantage. By having separate books, internal check or control becomes easier, which does not allow committing of errors or frauds. Having considered the need for having separate books of different types, we shall discuss all those books one by one. See, all the subsidiary books have been classified into 4 types. One is cash journal, second one is goods journal, third one is bills journal, fourth one is general journal or journal proper. So these are the classification we are having in subsidiary books or subsidiary journal. When it comes to goods journal, see, this book is used for recording only credit purchases of goods in which the businessman deals. In the case of manufacturing concerns, credit purchase of raw materials used for producing goods are recorded in this book. Other purchases, that is cash purchases of goods or raw materials, and cash and credit purchases of assets are not recorded in this book. This purchases book is also called purchases day book, purchases register, bought book, invoice book. See, in this book, when we are going to write or prepare this book, we should know some terms we'll be using regularly while recording accounts. One is invoice. According to the objective evidence concept as seen earlier, there should be evidence for the fact that a transaction has taken place. Without evidence, transactions are not recorded in the books of account. Invoice is a business document or bill or statement giving details of the goods such as their quantity, quality, price and total value given by the seller to the purchaser. It is popularly known as a bill. It is purchase invoice, also called inward invoice for the purchase and sale invoice. For purchase, sale invoice or outward invoice for the seller, that will be explained later. So, second term is trade discount. Nowadays, we might have observed the price of the article is mentioned on the article. The price mentioned on the article or at which it is to be sold is called the catalog of list price. When a purchase is made, the invoice is prepared first on the basis of its catalog price, and then certain percentage of that price is allowed as rebate or reduction, which is called trade discount. The purchaser pays only the net amount, that is what remains after allowing the trade discount to the seller. Trade discount thus is an allowance given by the seller to the buyer on the catalog price of the article at the time of selling. This is generally given by the manufacturers and wholesalers to their customers. Since the trade discount is deducted from the catalog price and only the net amount is received or paid, it is this net amount that is actually recorded in the books. Trade discount therefore does not appear in the books of accounts. So let us see the pro forma of purchase book or format of purchase book. It will be having 5 columns. One is date column, next one is particulars column, that is name and address of the supplier. Third one is inward invoice number column. Fourth column is ledger folio column, in which we are going to open an account in the name of purchases or suppliers. Last column is total amount column. So how to record in this book? So see, one by one I will explain you. The credit purchases of goods recorded in the purchase book as in the first column, that is date column. The year and month of purchase is recorded in the left hand side sub column, and the day of purchase is recorded on the right hand side sub column of date column. In the second column, the name and address of the party or supplier of goods are recorded. While recording in this column, we have to write name as well as address. Say for example, we have purchased goods from X company, X account, and so where it is resided. So X company account, Bombay, X company in Hyderabad. So like this we have to write the address of the company. In the third column, invoice number is to be entered. See, when goods are purchased on credit, the businessman receives from the supplier a written statement giving the details of the goods supplied. It is an inward invoice for the businessman. The invoices so received are consecutively numbered and filled. And these invoices are to be filed in a particular folder. They have to be carefully preserved for future reference and for audit by the auditors. The consecutive number given to each inward invoice is to be entered in the invoice column of the purchase book in order that the details required may be easily obtained. When it comes to fourth column, in this fourth column, the ledger folio or page number of the account in ledger is to be entered. This is done while posting the amounts to the individual ledger accounts of the suppliers. So when it comes to last column, that is total column, in this column the amount payable to the supplier is to be recorded. It must be remembered that the invoice is prepared first with catalog prices before reduction in the form of trade discount is allowed. The amount after deducting the trade discount is the net sum payable. This net sum is to be recorded in the amount column, but sometimes sales tax is also levied. In some cases, packing and forwarding charges are also charged. In such cases, the invoice price payable is the catalog price minus trade discount plus sales tax plus packing and forwarding charges, etc. are to be recorded. If you maintain a remark column, any other relevant information is recorded. For example, the date on which the amount of the bill is payable, the date for actual payment, etc. So on. So, see, when we prepare purchase book, so we have to post these entries in the purchases book. For this, we have to prepare credit the supplier's account, debit the purchases account. Like in the journal, when you write an entry, according to the entry, we will be preparing two accounts in the ledger. One is purchases account, another one is supplier's account. Here also, though we are not writing any entries, we have to prepare two accounts in the ledger book. So in that ledger book, we have to prepare two accounts. One is supplier's account, another one is purchases account. So next account, let us know about the next account, that is sales account. This book is used for recording only the credit sales of goods in which the businessman deals. Other sales, that is cash sales of goods or cash or credit sale of assets, are not recorded in this book. The sales journal is also called sales book, sales day book, sales register, or merely day book. The ruling of the sales journal will be same like that of the purchase day book. See, format of this sales day book, this is also consisting of 5 columns. So manner of writing also will be same. Only thing is one column will be different. So let us see. First column is date column. Second column is name and address of the customer. Name and address of the customer to whom we are selling goods on credit. When it comes to third one, this is a very important one. So this will be the outward invoice number. When you are selling goods to a customer, so we will be preparing statements regarding the selling goods, quality, quantity, price, and so on. So these invoices will be given serial numbers. That serial number has to be mentioned in this column. So next one is ledger folio column. So in the ledger book, in which page we are opening accounts in these names. Fifth column is total column. So how to record in this sales day book? See, the entries in the sales book are made in a systematic manner. That is, in the date column, the date of the credit sale is recorded. In the second column, the name and address of the customer to whom goods are sold on credit are recorded. In the third column, when goods are sold, a bill or invoice is given to the customer. For the customer, it is an inward invoice, and for the seller, it is an outward invoice. Such invoices are to be consecutively numbered and their copies filed. the number of the outward invoice is to be entered in the third column for future references. In the fourth column, that is ledger folio column, the page number of the customer's account in the ledger is to be entered while posting the transaction. In the amount column, the amount actually receivable by the businessman, that is catalog price minus trade discount, should be mentioned. For making entries in the sales book, the outward invoice is the basis. It is generally prepared with the catalog price, from which the trade discount is deducted to give the net amount. In the amount column of the sales book, this net amount should be entered as sales revenue. But on the net amount, the sales tax may be levied and added to the amount. Further, packaging and forwarding charges may also be added to that amount. If the invoice amount includes sales tax and packing and forwarding charges, etc., strictly speaking, it should be separated from the sales revenue. However, for the sake of simplicity, such adjustments are not taken into account here. Therefore, the amount receivable by the business concern may be recorded in the amount column. So, how to post in the sales book? The credit sales recorded in this journal are posted to their respective accounts in the ledger. The double entry system is completed in the following manner. That means, so when you debit the customer's account, that means open individual accounts in the name of each customer in the ledger and post the individual amount to the debit of each customer's account with the date and amount of the transaction by writing to sales account. In the same way, credit sales account has to be opened periodically. Total the sales book and post the total to the credit side of the sales account in the ledger with the date when it is totaled by writing by sundries as per the sales book. So, these are the two books. So, another important book is Purchases Returns book. Let us learn something about this Purchases Returns book. Right. See, Purchases Returns book is used for recording the returns of goods to suppliers. It is also used to record allowances for damages claimed in respect of goods purchased. In any business, it may become necessary to return the goods purchased partly or fully. The reason may be that the goods are defective or of inferior quality, or damaged in transit, or of short weight, or received too late, or changed more than what has been agreed to, etc. The businessman may therefore return them to the supplier. Since goods are going out from the business to the supplier, they are also called returns outward, and hence the purchase returns book is also called returns outward book. Sometimes, instead of returning the goods to the supplier for the above mentioned reasons, the purchaser may retain the goods but claim some allowances, that is damages or compensation, to which the supplier may agree. While recording or entering in this book, so one term has to be remembered, that is debit note. Debit note is a term. So, this debit note bill has to be prepared. When goods are returned to a supplier or some allowance is claimed from him, a statement called debit note is sent to him. It informs him that his account is debited to the extent of the value of goods returned or allowance claimed. The debit note also contains the name and address of the supplier, description of the goods returned or nature of allowances claimed and reasons for the same. The debit notes are consecutively numbered and their duplicate copies are carefully filed. See, while writing in the purchase return book, format will be like this: purchases return book. This is also will be having 5 columns, date column, second column is name and address of the suppliers, third column is debit note number column, fourth column is ledger folio column, fifth column is amount of rupees column. If you want to prepare remarks column, we can also prepare it. See how to record in this book. So let us see one by one. See, in the first column, the year, month and day on which the goods are returned or claim made is entered in the first column. See, always remember this. So in writing in the journal, in the date column, that should be in this manner. First we have to write year, later month and date. So process of writing should be like this. Next, in the second column, the name and address of the supplier to whom goods are returned or from whom some allowance is claimed or entered. In the third column, the serial number of debit note is to be entered in the debit note column. When it comes to fourth one, that means fourth column, this is the ledger page number of the supplier's account is to be entered in the ledger folio column at the time of posting. Generally, so in this column we will be writing numbers when we actually working in a concern. In practice, we will not use this column, just will be shown in the account. When it comes to fifth column, the net value of the goods returned or the amount of claim made is to be entered in the amount column. It must be remembered that at the time of original purchase, trade discount might have been given, in which case the same should be adjusted and only the net amount is to be shown here. In other words, whatever be the amount credited to the supplier's account at the time of purchase on these goods, it should be debited now. For example, if the catalog price of a book is rupees 250 on which 20% discount is given, the actual amount credited originally was only 200 per book. Now, if 5 books are returned, that means rupees 250 into 5 is equal to 1250 minus 20% discount, that is 250, that is rupees 1000 only is to be debited in the supplier's account. Therefore, in the amount column, rupees 1000 only is to be entered now. In the remarks column, any other relevant information is given that has to be recorded. So, For posting the purchase returns book, we have to debit the supplier's account and also credit the purchases returns account. So that we have to prepare two accounts in the ledger account. One is supplier's account. Actually we have already prepared supplier's account. Now it is not required to prepare separately. Credit for this returns account, we may not be having purchase returns book earlier, so that now we have to open one purchase returns account in the ledger books. To that we have to credit the return amount. So this is about the purchase return. So when it comes to next one, sales returns book. The sales return book is used for recording goods returned by the customer. It is also used for recording allowances granted to the customers on account of damages, breakages, short weight, etc. In the case of purchases return book, where a business concern may return the goods purchased owing to various reasons, similarly, the customers of the business concern may return the goods to the concern. They constitute sales returns. They are also called returns inward as goods are coming in. Likewise, the allowances claimed by the customers, if agreed by the business concern, are recorded in the journal. The sales returns journal is also called returns inward journal or book. So while writing in this sales return book, we have to remember one word, that is credit note. This term is very, very important. Credit note means when a customer returns goods or is given an allowance, a credit note is prepared and sent to the customer. It has the name and address of the customer, description of the goods received which are returned by the customer, etc. It informs the customer that his account is credited to the extent of the value of goods returned or allowance granted to him. The credit note is the basis for recording in the sales returns book. Credit notes are consecutively numbered and their copies filed. The following is a specimen of a credit note. So see, actually I would like to show you a format of credit note specimen, but now I am not showing you. So this is commonly will be, so details of the, all the details regarding the sales returns will be there. So just remember it, it's not. So regarding the sales book, see sales return book will be like this: date, name and address of the customer, credit note number, ledger folio, and total amount. See, in this sales return book, in the date column, enter the date of the credit note. In the first column, name and address of the customer, who has returned goods or to whom some allowance is granted, in the second column. In the third column, credit note number. In the fourth column, ledger page number of the customer. In the last column, net value of goods returned or amount of allowance granted in the amount column has to be entered. Next one is posting the sales return journal in the ledger. See, for this we have to record in two accounts. One is sales return account, another one is customer account. Already we will be having customer's account. So in that customer account, his account has to be credited. We may not be having sales return account so far. So now we have to open an account in this name. In that account, we have to debit the sales return account. So in the ledger. So that is the process of posting in the ledger. Process of posting in the ledger. Next books are bills receivables and bills payable books. Bills receivable and bills payable books. See, bills of exchange and promissory notes are used to settle business transactions. They are written undertakings given by the debtor to pay a certain amount of money in a definite or determinable future date. These are also called negotiable instruments because the title can be transferred to a third party or valuable consideration. These instruments are mostly used in payment against purchase of goods or assets and in the settlement of debts. The seller wants to increase his sales to get more profits. The seller generally grants credit but would like to have some written commitment from the buyer to pay the amount on a specified date. The written agreement or undertaking takes the form of a bill of exchange or simply bill or promissory note or pronote. A bill of exchange is defined as an instrument in writing containing an unconditional order signed by the maker directing a certain person to pay a certain sum of money only to or to the order to a certain person or to the bearer of the instrument. There are three parties to a bill of exchange. They are drawer, drawee, payee. See, as per the bill, there will be so many terms are to be remembered. Particularly in this bill, acceptance should be there, term of the bill will be there, due date will be there. See, it is an unconditional bill. That means drawee should not make any conditions. Then only it becomes a bill. If at all a drawee make any condition, the bill which was drawn by the drawer is not called a bill. So we should have some knowledge over this. To maintain these bills, we have classified these bills into two types. One is bills receivable book and bills payable book. If the number of bill transaction is few, they can be journalized through the journal proper. But if the volume of bill transaction more, separate books for bills receivable and for bills payable can be kept. All receipts of bills are entered in the bills receivable journal or book and all acceptances of bills are entered in the bills payable journal or book. These books have various columns for recording information pertaining to the bills. See the proforma of bills receivable book. First column is serial number. To enter a bill, first of all we have to write a serial number. Date of the bill date on which we have received the bill. Date has to be written in this column. When it comes to see the third column, from whom we have received, his name from X and so or Y, X company, Y company, Z company, like this. Next, name and address of the acceptor. Since it is a bill, there will be three parties. Drawer will be there, drawee will be there, payee will be there. So that in the third column, we have to write the name of the person from whom we have received the bill. He may be a drawer, may not be a drawer. But in the name and address of the acceptor, drawee's name and address. Since it is a negotiable instrument, it can be transferred to any person any number of times. So that we have to write actually who is the drawee. Date of a bill when it is drawn. Not received. Received date is second column. So date of bill is when the bill is drawn, that date has to be written here. Term of the bill, maybe 1 month term, maybe 2 months, 3 months, maximum it is 4 months. So that term has to be mentioned. Date of maturity, it is also very, very important, including grace period. So date of maturity has to be mentioned in this column. Where payable, if the place is mentioned, so amount will be paid in Mehboob Nagar only, amount will be paid in Hyderabad only. Then so we have to write the location or place of the amount. How much amount has to be paid? So that amount specifically mentioned. So including words and digits should be same. How disposed of? How this bill can be disposed of? That also has to be mentioned. If it all any other things are there, we have to make in the remarks column. See, for this bills receivable book, so we have to post them in the ledger. Each entry in this book is posted to the debit side of each individual account, and the periodical total of this book is posted to the credit side of the posted to the debit side of the bills receivable, so that individual parties account has to be credited, bills receivable account has to be debited. For this we have to open two accounts. In the same way, bills payable book is there. So for this it is also having so many columns, but some particulars will be different. In the first column, serial number has to be mentioned, date, so on which we are entering in this book, that date has to be mentioned. Name and address of the drawer has to be mentioned. Name and address of the payee has to be mentioned. Date of bill on which the bill is drawn has to be mentioned. Term of the bill, as I explained in the earlier, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, like this. Date of maturity, where payable, total amount, remarks, or these are to be mentioned in this book. When it comes to last one, journal proper. The transactions which are not to be recorded will be entered in this particular book is called journal. That means in addition to the above mentioned books so far discussed, the original journal, now called journal proper, is also used to record all other transactions which cannot be recorded in any of the aforesaid books. The journal proper is similar to the journal in ruling and form. Sometimes, as some transactions are not numerous, a particular subdivision of the journal may not be maintained. For example, if the businessman is not in a habit of accepting bills payable, then he would not maintain a bills payable book. However, if occasionally a bill is accepted, then such a transaction has to be passed through some journal before the ledger posting is done. Thus, when any one or more of subdivisions are not maintained by the business concern, that you would pass all transactions in the journal proper. See, generally types of transactions recorded in journal proper are opening entries, closing entries, adjustment entries, rectification entries, transfer entries, and other entries will be recorded. See, while opening entries means in the last from the first financial statements, so whatever the balances are there, they are to be transferred to this account. That is, they are all opening entries. And closing entries, when we are going to close accounts on the closing date of the financial year, so all those balances are to be mentioned in this general proper. Adjustment entries, that means depreciation, like prepaid expenses, so like these entries. Rectification entries means when the errors or mistakes may creep in while generalizing, posting, carrying forward, etc. Such errors are rectified through the rectification entries. Transfer entries means when it is desired to transfer an amount from one account to another account, a transfer entry is passed through the journal proper to effect such a transfer. A transfer entry will be necessary to transfer any amount from one account to another account. Other entries means credit purchases and credit sales of assets such as furniture, machinery, etc. Withdrawal of goods by the businessman for his personal use. Loss of goods by theft, fire, etc. Endorsement, renewal and dishonor of bills. Consignment of goods to other for sale, and other transactions like interest on capital, interest on drawings, bad debts, etc. will be recorded in this journal. So, this is all. See, format of this journal will be as it is journal, what we have learned in the journal lecture. So, this is all about subsidiary books except cash book, which will be explained in a later class. Okay, right.